We're recording with the click track. We're recording with the click track. I'm gonna turn off the click track. And I'm gonna turn off the beats. Good morning and welcome to the Curious Case of Benjamin Button. I am Drew Scheid, and this is it. This is the Sixers podcast, and it starts now, and I'm doing it on GarageBand, and it's sick. And this is the greatest sports comedy podcast you've ever heard in your life. You're going to walk away from this being like, I learned so much about my favorite teams, and I got a laugh. I got a good laugh. And no better time to start a podcast about the Sixers basketball than after the biggest thing to ever happen in the last 20 years of Sixers basketball to happened, which is crazy in a long history of crazy, terrible things. Listen to the Spinsters podcast. I will start off this episode by telling everyone to listen to the Spinsters. It is a far better podcast. And also, this most recent episode, they did a really good job of just sort of rehashing very simply just in the last 20 years, a lot of nuts stuff has just happened to this franchise. And this last week, the nuttiest thing happened, which is we traded pieces that were on the 76ers for James Harden, a top 75 player. And that's unbelievable. Like, there's really nothing to say about that. I don't even know if I'll talk about the trade deadline, really, except for that secretly Boston got better. And that's my hot, sizzling take, is that Boston probably made the best trade outside of the Sixers and the Nets. And besides that, that's probably the best one. And that's all my tread that on talk. Oh, and the Hornets got marginally better. Okay, all I'm going to talk about, I think the Rising Stars games were a great idea, and that was so much fun, and I want to see that next year. And I love seeing Scotty Barnes and Tyrese Maxey interact, because they're the cutest people in the whole world, and they're nice. And they were nice talking to each other. And I want to see them do it again next year, but I don't like games that just end at 50 on TV. That doesn't look good. It doesn't look good to end in a free throw. It should end in a shot. If you get to 50, someone should have to make a 3 or a 2, and then boom, game's over. That should be the game. Free throw is just weird. Besides that, it's just so much fun watching all of our boys just look at one another. It really is just Chris Paul looking at Steph, looking at Maxey, looking at Joel, looking at Wiggins, looking at... It's just like, yeah, look at all of them in the same room. That's great. Just looks great in your brain. And then I'll just touch briefly on, I am very, very, very eager for the 76ers. That's it. I'm still not like, I've truly processed the trade actually happening. Like, it's seeing him on the bench during the Bucks and the Celtics games. You know, it's like, okay, there he is. And then I keep trying to look at pictures of him in Sixers uniform because I'm like, I still don't believe it. It's crazy. He's on the team. And are they going to win this year? Yes. And they're going to win every year forever. And that's how it's going to work. But I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work. It's going to take a minute, but it's very exciting. And I'm going to get to see them in Madison Square Garden in a week or so. I'm so excited, and hopefully they'll both play and they'll both get 60 points. And it'll be so much fun, but truly I have no idea what they're going to look like together. And I've been playing 2K and trying to be like, how does this work? It's great, but how is it really going to work? It's crazy. There's so many amazing teams in the East. And they're all so good. And it's really just a battle of like who gets matched up with who. That's gonna be big. Is confirmed seeding, because it's truly just like, Sixers could lose 2 games and then we're the 7th seed. That's how tight it is. It's just like, oh shit, all of a sudden we're the 10th seed and we lost 3 games in a row. And then you win 20 games in a row and it's like you're still 3rd. It's so tight. And then the West is so open because the best teams are the Suns and everyone else, is what it feels like. It's the Suns and everyone else. I feel like I even have to look at a list of the Western Conference teams because I'm like blanking. I'm like, who's good? Clippers are amazing. I love the Clippers. I think they lost the last 2 games, but I love them. I'm literally looking at a list of Western Conference teams because I'm just going to talk about them. I'm just going to touch on every team for a quick second. For the first episode, this is every single team. I'm going to go through the rankings, last place to first place, west to east. And that's how I'm going to talk about it. Houston Rockets. Houston Rockets are terrible. I hope they get better. They're a young team, and they're great. And I like Jalen Green, and I like KPJ and Sengun. And I think they're fun, and I hope they get better. OKC is great. Lou Dort is the GOAT. Sacramento Kings, what are you doing? What are you doing, the Kings? You've traded away your future to be the 8th seed. It's just sad. It's literally like if New Orleans traded Brandon Ingram for no, it's not even like they traded Brandon Ingram. It's like if they traded Zion. I'm literally going to compare Tyrese Halliburton to Zion. Apples and oranges, but truly, I'm just trying to transition also. But the Sacramento Kings trading Tyrese Halliburton is literally like if New Orleans traded Zion for way better Yusuf Nurkic. Is who Sabonis is in my head. I know he's not. I know Sabonis is fantastic, and I love him, and I love him as a player, but all said and done, it's like I think Sacramento fans would have been fine waiting another 3 years for Halliburton to get good. I think if they've been waiting for 20 plus years, they can wait 3 more years. And then you trade De'Aaron for, pieces around that team. Yeah, it's just sad. I don't know. It's not sad, but it's like that's kind of sad. Sorry, the door slammed. That was so loud. I'll mark that. I'm not gonna mark it. New Orleans. I'm so proud of them. I've been to so many New Orleans Pelicans games this year, and they've been so bad all year. And I'm really proud of them for trading Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's been having a pretty great season, but he got hurt. And they traded him away for basically CJ McCollum was kind of who they got out of that trade, right? I'm not going to look it up, but that's practically what happened. And they're so much better. And it's not like it's like the opposite of Sacramento. Not really the opposite, but like they traded a medium good player for another really good medium good player. And CJ McCollum, what a weird way to describe him. A really good medium good player. Really, really good medium good player, CJ McCollum. To pair that around Zion and Brandon Ingram, Brandon Ingram has gotten so much better this year. He's amazing. I got to go to this awesome game this season with my buddy, and we went to it was Clippers. It was Clippers, Pelicans. Jesus, I'm stuttering over just saying Clippers. But it was me and my friend Robert. That's what I was trying to think, because we were talking over it the whole time, and me and my friend Robert were like, this is great. We're going to watch the Clippers. We're going to watch Paul George put up 50, and then it'll be a blowout game. It'll be amazing. And then Clippers were up by 20 in the third quarter. Brandon Ingram just took over and created shots. Just got it done. Valanciunas is such a great pickup. So that team now I don't know what Herb Jones plays. Herb Jones. I do know what Herb Jones plays, but for some reason I'm like, is he a small forward or is he? Yeah, he's a forward. Okay, yeah, Herb Jones, but he's not a starter. Okay. They got point guard Jose Alvarado. Can he shoot? Yes, I can shoot. They really don't have a point guard. They still have Kira Lewis, who's awesome. I forgot they didn't trade him away. Great. This is a good team. This is significant. And Devontae Graham. Devontae Graham's our point guard. Duh. This is a great team. And then when Zion's back, it's going to be better. And I hope just for everyone involved that they continue to keep making right moves, like getting CJ McCollum. And hopefully Zion comes back sooner than later and they can all play together. That's a fun team. San Antonio, I've never had anything ever to say about San Antonio. I love them. I think there's a lot of great players. I love Lonnie Walker and I love DeJounte Murray. And I hope they like the moves they made, because I think Derek White was a really awesome piece that they had, and they traded him away for not anything exciting, but good for them. I like San Antonio. Portland, what are you doing? I don't want to talk about Portland. What are you doing? Dame, just do whatever you want to do, man. But okay, that's just what it feels like. It's like, yeah, Dame Lillard's awesome and he's great and he's cool, but okay, what are you doing? Okay, good. No, good for you. Good for you, but okay, do you have fun? This is a weird take. I love doing no shade on Damian Lillard. I think he's fantastic. It's just right now their front office they don't have a GM and they've made weird, bad moves. It's been weird. The Lakers, I think the Lakers are fine. The Lakers have LeBron James. You're fine. You just won a championship. You're fine. You still, the West is so open. You might make it to the second round of the playoffs. Even though you're the current 9th seed, you can make it to the second round of the playoffs. The Clippers are amazing. They just got better. And next year they'll have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard to join their cast. That's pretty amazing. I'm proud of Minnesota for jumping up. They are the 7th seed. This is the best they've ever been. It's kind of crazy that they're the 7th seed still. Also, because this is a Sixers podcast, this is how I'm marketing this, because I am a Sixers man. I am the most Sixers man you'll ever meet. And that's a promise. I am your Sixers man. It's kind of crazy that Minnesota has had, probably not equally as long, but a very long quote-unquote process. Not like the Sixers had, because the Sixers were very dramatic in how we processed Sam Hinkie-wise, and it worked. The process is working. Even when it didn't work, we were right. If we were wrong, we were right. And so many ups and downs with the process, but like at least the Sixers have been contenders every year. Joel and Ben have been playing at the same time. They have been for sure like 6th seed plus. Because in the bubble, they're the 6th seed. I was just listening to a podcast, an old Joel interview, and he was talking about how they're the 6th seed. But we've been the 6th seed plus for a long time. And it's crazy that we're talking about Minnesota now, and we're like, they did it. They figured it out, and now they're good. And, I mean, they're going to get better next year with Anthony Edwards growing, and D'Lo looks great, and Cat's just gotten better. But it's kind of wild that they're, I mean, they're hovering, they're not that far back from the 5th and 4th, but like, it's wild that it's like they've been doing bad for so long. And finally, they're kind of good. They're the 7th seed. Denver, Nikola Jokic is amazing. He's amazing. What else is there to say about them? Dallas, they made a terrible move with their Kristaps trade. I think they could have flipped him for something way better in the offseason. And it doesn't make any sense getting Spencer Dinwiddie and a guy who can't shoot, who's on a terrible contract in Bertans. That was so weird. The Jazz, I don't care. This is an anti-Jazz podcast. If you like the Jazz, I will not talk about it. The Jazz, except to say that Donovan Mitchell is the coolest in the world, and I love him, and I have his shoes. But besides that, frick the Jazz. They're stinky. Memphis, I love Memphis. I think they're the best. I think Memphis Grizzlies are amazing, and I'm so excited for them. And they're gonna be good for forever. It's what it feels like. It feels like everyone on that team is 19 years old. And it's like, great, they'll have 10 years to be better. I'm so excited for them. My goodness, they are good. What is their record right now? They are 41-19. That's incredible. In my head, that team is 14 years old. And they've been so successful. And I've really only seen like 5 to 10 games of theirs this year, but they've just been awesome. And John Moran is the coolest ever. He's very exciting. Very exciting team. Golden State Warriors are great. I don't have anything to say. What am I doing? I'm reviewing every team in a minute or less. I have not been doing that well, I don't think. The Phoenix Suns are amazing. They are not pretenders. Whatever that, contenders or pretenders. They are not pretenders. They are contenders, my dear boy. The Phoenix Suns are good. I knew the Phoenix Suns have been good for years since they drafted Devin Booker. I've been like, they're a good team, and then they haven't been good. But I have been rooting for them, League Pass wise, forever, and I've known that have always been good. And I remember it being weird last year when everyone's like, really, the Suns are making sure they had the easiest leg of everyone of their NBA championship journey. I would say they had the easiest, because I forgot who they faced off in the second round. They faced off the Nuggets, and the Nuggets had a bunch of injured people, but not really. Did they face off the Nuggets? Yes. And then they faced off the Clippers in the Western Conference Finals. And they did not have Kawhi, but that was still a 7-game series. I mean, like, but the Clippers are good. We now see. It's like, well, they didn't have Kawhi, but it's like they're still, the Clippers are a very good team without Kawhi Leonard and even Paul George. And they had Paul George, who's doing magnificent, who was doing the opposite of what he did in the bubble. He was amazing in the playoffs last year, and no one talks about that. Paul George was incredible last year. That was so much fun to watch. And anyway, Phoenix is amazing. Phoenix is great. The Chris Paul deal is awesome. I hope they can, I hope it works out with DeAndre Ayton and they can find a good deal for the summer. Like, they can't lose him. I can't imagine they would. But I think it was a bad sign that didn't get, like, for sure done dealed yet. Like, Booker and Ayton should have the same contract. It should just be 3 maxes, those 3. Because you don't need anyone else. And they have a good team around them. They have Mikal Bridges, and, I guess he could walk at some point, but why would he? God, I love Mikal Bridges, and it's just the saddest thing. The Sixers traded him for Zaire Smith. And that's such a sad story. It's just all that, like, every single time I think about Mikal Bridges, I get so sad because I think about 2 sad things. That's what he invokes in Sixers fans, is 2 very sad things. 1, a missed trade opportunity. That's sad in its own right. And then Zaire Smith, probably a very decent guy and good guy. And I'm so sad that his career ended so short. Like, it's just so sad. That whole thing. Anyway, God, I love the Phoenix Suns, but I can't watch them because whenever I see Mikal Bridges, I'm like, I get sad. I got sad right now. Okay, that was the Western Conference. Here is the Eastern Conference. Orlando is bad, but fun because they're a fun team and everyone on that team is nice. And I think the Orlando aesthetic is great. I think it's a great team. I'm just getting into the aesthetic of their team. I think all of their uniforms are cool. I think all their players are nice. And it's nice to think about. It's like, they're in Disney. That's cool. Okay. Detroit is bad and not fun bad because they're not by Disney World. Detroit feels like it's next to a parking garage, and then Orlando's next to Disney World. That's the only difference. It's just like when you step outside the Little Caesars Dome, you can't go to Disney World. It's not that Detroit isn't a wonderful city. It's amazing, but it's just like it is just the degree of like a little bit less fun because I can't go to Disney World as easily as I can in Orlando after I see a Magic game. That's the only difference. Good for Detroit. They're the same seating. Indiana. Good for you guys. You traded. You said that you were selling, and then didn't seem like you were, and then you made a great trade for the future. Good for you. The Knicks. The Knicks are only 5 games ahead of. Wow, I actually did not realize that the Knicks were this far back in the standings. They're not even really that close to the play-in. I mean, they are. They're 3 games out, but Atlanta's gonna try to sustain that, hopefully, and I don't know. They could turn it around. They could become a play-in team. Hopefully, they'll be like the 10th and 9th seed. Washington, I don't want to talk about them. Kyle Kuzma's great. He's always been great, and now he's being great on a good situation where he's the number 1 option. He's been great this year. Also, that was kind of crazy in the Ricky Sanchez podcast, the Daryl Morey interview that just was posted, where he was talking about 3 days out from the trade deadline that there was going to be they were all set to trade Ben Simmons for someone who wasn't James Harden, and then the James Harden stuff kind of came to fruition, and they were like, "Oh, let's do this trade instead." But one day we'll find out probably who he meant, who else he was going to trade for, and I imagine it was Bradley and Bealian. It was the crypto man, or he's not crypto. I imagine he likes some crypto, Bradley Beal. I imagine a lot of NBA players don't have the aversion of crypto that the average civilian has. I think. Yeah. Anyway, I think everyone's pretty open about crypto in the NBA. Good for them. Good for everyone who likes crypto. Good for you, not for me. What a lukewarm take I have on crypto. I really don't care. Anyway, good for watching Atlanta. I hate Atlanta, but whatever. They've been fine. I don't watch Atlanta ever, but they are not the same team. I just know from just how they've been playing and just news in the media about them that they've been just kind of mediocre, and they're not living up to last year, where last year it was like, are they going to be, they felt like Atlanta energy last year during the playoffs feels like what we feel about the Grizzlies right now throughout the entire season, where like there was a month and a half where like everyone collectively was like, man, Atlanta's really good, they're in the Eastern Conference Finals, or they could go all the way. It's like they blew out 2, the Knicks series either could go other way, but it's like then the Sixers just choked, and it made everyone be like, God, Atlanta's going to be good forever. It's like how we talk about Memphis now. Anyway, that's how I feel. Is what it feels like. And then we're all proved wrong. It's like, no, they're not set up to be a regular season team, really. But they also couldn't, not this year. Last year was like perfect, where like the East was pretty much open, except for 3 teams, the Bucks, the Nets, and the Sixers were the best ones. And then everyone else was like, everyone's kind of mediocre besides them. But now this year, it's not. And that's where it's heating up right here. So Atlanta, I can't imagine will get out of the play-in. And then they'll lose in the first round. If they do. But Charlotte, they're a play-in team, probably won't get out of the play-in. I love Charlotte, though. Good for everyone on that team. And I think they made a great trade to get Montrezl Harrell. The Brooklyn Nets, they are also a very good basketball team who have not been very good lately, but they'll turn it around when KD comes back. And they also got this guy named Seth Curry, who's amazing, and Andre Drummond, who's amazing, and Ben Simmons, who's amazing. So they'll be good. Little hunch, but the Brooklyn Nets will be pretty good. Toronto Raptors, I love them. I'm so glad that they've been able to be good, and that they didn't trade Pascal Siakam. I'm really glad they didn't trade him, because there was all these rumors a while ago that yeah, he was going to get out of there. But I think that's a really strong team, and they're still medium age to young. Medium age being mid-20s. That's when you're medium years old. I'm in my mediums currently. I am a Toronto Raptor. Anyway, they're good. And they'll be a first-round exit, too. And good for them. Boston Celtics. They are good again. Beginning of the year, I was very excited because they were terrible. And then there's all the Jaylen Brown rumors that they were going to trade him for Ben Simmons. And I was like, yeah, do it. Fleece them. Fleece them. and then it seems like I just watched some clips from JJ Redick's podcast. We were just talking to Jason Tatum, and he was like, yeah, we were bad in the beginning of the season. And then I talked to Jaylen Brown and was like, do you want to be good? And Jaylen Brown was like, yeah, I want to be good. And then we decided to be good, and that's why we're good now. I think that was a pretty great reason for what happened. So anyway, Celtics are great. Milwaukee is great, but they're not as good as last year. That's my hot take, because they're not as good as last year. They were so good, and they are so good still, because Giannis is Giannis. But I think the Suns are doing a better job. Obviously, they're a better team in a better conference. But I think on paper and how they've been playing, the Suns have been significantly better than Milwaukee throughout this regular season. Even though Milwaukee's still amazing, and when playoffs come, that's what I was listening on after TNT, after the Sixers beat the Bucks on TNT the other day. They were talking about, like, on that broadcast, like, yeah, I mean, they beat them and it was great, but it also feels like the Bucks are in a zone now of just like, they want to win throughout the regular season, obviously, but they're on a different mode of, like, I don't know. They're just they want to win a championship. They're going to be good. They could be the 6th seed and still be a favorite. They could be literally like the 9th seed, and I would still be like, they might win it at all. Like, they're just always going to be, with Giannis, they'll always be a huge threat. Cleveland, they're incredible. That was the best game of the year, I thought. It was when Joel put up 40 and dunked on Jared Allen. That was the best game of the year. And I love them. And I think everyone on the entire planet is surprised that they're this good this year. Can't say enough about Evan Mobley and Garland. Incredible duo. Incredible front court. Great team. Great group of guys. Then there's this little team called the Philadelphia 76ers. We are the 3rd seed. We are the best team in the league, and we are lovely. And there is someone named James Harden who will be joining them after the All-Star break, so we'll see how that goes. The Bulls, another team. So that's what's crazy from last year to this year, is that Chicago and Cleveland are two teams that, like, I don't think Cleveland, anyone thought that they would be close to the play-in. And then Chicago, they were like, oh, great, they got better, and they'll probably be like the 8th seed next year. And then it's like, no, they got really good. And DeMar DeRozan is amazing. And he's always been amazing, but this year he just stepped it up, and he's incredible. And then the Miami Heat have been so great, and I think they would have a better title, or they'd have a better what am I thinking? Record. They have a better record this year if they didn't have so many injuries throughout, and like just different ones sporadic throughout. Bam's hurt and because COVID, and Kyle Lowry and all of them. But when all three of them are playing together, it's humming. And Victor Oladipo's coming back later, but he's probably never gonna be the same guy. I can't imagine, but I hope he does. And Victor Oladipo is 30% who he was. Still pretty awesome player to add to the Miami Heat. So that's both conferences in a weird style, but I think that was fun. I had fun. This is the first episode of this podcast. I love you all so much. Thanks for stepping over me. All right. Let's play some basketball.